Welcome back. You're still watching Channels Beam, and we're still discussing having affordable internet in Nigeria. Well, with me now in the studio is Onika Makwakwa. She's the African Regional Coordinator for Alliance for Affordable Internet. You're welcome to Channels Beam.
Thank you very much.
So now Nigeria has signed an MOU with your organization on how we can have affordable internet in Nigeria. How are you going to help with that? Because I know we have issues with infrastructure, especially power.
Yes.
We have accessibility, you know. So what magic do you want to perform?
Well, actually, we've already been working with the Ministry of Communications. This was a renewal of an MOU that was initially signed 3 years ago. So we are precisely going to be looking at policy that can enable access to affordable internet in Nigeria. So the areas that we are specifically working on, you mentioned one, infrastructure, but specifically we are looking at infrastructure sharing. How do we support a policy that can encourage sharing and regulations for encouraging infrastructure sharing so that the risk is shared amongst the operators in a way that helps to bring down the cost of the internet. But also, we've just recently learned, I think all of us learned, that the power companies actually have access to infrastructure for broadband. And so how do we encourage sharing between telco and power companies in order to be able to run broadband access through those same pipelines? You
know, sometimes when we talk like this, it sounds like we're in the urban part of the country, and then we're just talking. Because if you look at the arrangement or the population in Nigeria, you have a majority in the rural areas, and sometimes, like what you have just said, is a lot of English for them. So how are you working with these guys who are just down there and who are even more in number when you look at the population of Nigeria?
Yes, actually, you know, that's not unique to Nigeria. A lot of Africans in general in this region live in rural areas, and what we are seeing is that it is much slower to get access in the rural areas. And the number one reason that operators have told us is that it's too costly to deploy infrastructure for an area where they won't have as big a market as they would if they're in a place, say, like Lagos. Hence, infrastructure sharing becomes important. There needs to be some collaboration between government and between the different telcos so that they have shared risk to be able to move into those areas in a way that brings accessibility to the rural areas as well. We cannot afford to leave rural areas behind. Putting infrastructure there and giving them access to the internet could help with some of the challenges we are having in the cities, like urban migration, for example. If there's connectivity in the rural areas, which helps create jobs there, then there's less of an incentive for all the young people to migrate to the city for jobs, right? So I think we need to kind of look at it from a 360 perspective in terms of how do we create the kind of incentives for government as well as for private sector to collaborate effectively in a way that brings services for people in those areas.
Yeah, and then the third party in that collaboration you're talking about will be the people involved. Consumers. Would they deem this important? I mean, some people would just say, okay, have we had enough food? Yes. Have we had enough clothes to eat? Yes. What do I need with something like this?
Absolutely. I think that's why we are working on affordability specifically. And if you look at online population of Nigeria, we're talking about 47% of the population being online. And of that 47%, only 36% is women. So we are, you know, and if you think about it, these are the people who are making bread and butter decisions. So they have to decide, do I buy data for my children or airtime, or do I buy milk and bread for them to be able to be well fed? So it's really important in order for us to begin to bring everyone along that it's not good enough to just be connected. We need to focus on affordability. Hence, one of the key recommendations we're making around affordability is investing in public access. You know, we've seen countries that do well in terms of internet affordability. One of the key drivers of that has been public access, you know, finding out creative ways to use the Universal Service Fund, which is collected. Every country has a Universal Service Fund that's about 1% of the profits collected from the telcos. And that fund is to be used to connect and broaden access. So how do we use these funds to deploy them to places like rural areas, to invest in infrastructure, to find other creative ways? Other countries are looking at subsidizing handheld devices. Because yes, you know, we can have connectivity that's affordable, that's cheap, that's maybe even free, but if people still can afford the devices to be able to experience the internet, then it's still pretty much an answer.
What do you stand to gain in all of this?
Oh, wow. That's a really good question. I think part of the reason why, you know, Alliance for Affordable Internet is a multi-stakeholder alliance. Everyone in the alliance has a lot to gain. The alliance includes private sector. So yes, of course, they want to be able to have more work. I mean, the more connectivity, the more opportunities for them. It's an investment. But government as well, and consumers, civil society. Everyone is going to win because, you know, for me, if I were to tell you from my own personal perspective, I will tell you that we live in a global world. We are in a global economy that is also very much digital. And so we all win when Africans can participate in this digital economy in a way that helps us to create jobs in our own region, in our own countries, without having to now worry about sending our children overseas to be able to be employable there. So yes, we all have to win.
So it's a win-win situation.
Yes,
thank you so much for coming on the program. It was really nice having this talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
All right, well, that's it for our discussion in the studio, but we're now bringing you the trending videos for the week. The list of the most watched videos on Channels Television YouTube channel still has the story of the ownership of the money recovered at a building in Ikoyi, Lagos.
When was this money kept there? The money belongs to Rivers State government. They should return the money to us. Else, we'll take all legal steps to challenge the federal government.
Why did you raid Senator Goje's house?
Thank you so much. I'll quickly draw attention to that and say what we did in Senator Goje's house was not a raid. We executed search warrant.
On the fourth most watched position is the police search of Senator Goje's home, where allegedly sensitive documents were recovered. Biafran agitator Nnamdi Kanu's release is still on the list, and it's the third most watched video.
All right.
The unfortunate incident in Calabar, the Cross River State capital, where football fans were killed by a high-voltage cable, is on the second most watched video.
I have told Nigerians, I repeat today to Nigerians, I'm not corrupt and that I don't like money.
And the Minister of Transport, Rotimi Amechi, tops the chart. His interview on Channels Television hard copy is the most watched video.
But with all modesty, I'm an honest Nigerian. And there are very few honest Nigerians.
Well, that's it for this episode of Channels Beam. I'm Ini Thompson.